You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObscast.com. Okay, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast. Here for episode 29. So I'm Cameron Crane, executive editor of TVObsessive.com, joined by Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for this site. How are you doing today, Ryan?
I am now also Cameron Crane, executive editor of the site, which hopefully
Oh,
we'll make
no.
sense to you later. But
I know.
don't punch me. Don't punch me.
Anyway, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Same to you.
So today we're going to talk about Fargo season 5, episode 8, titled Blanket. We were just talking right before we got on air about how much we enjoyed the episode, so I'm looking forward to talking about it. As always, we'll first talk about what's in the news related to TV a bit, what we've been watching, and so on and so forth. And so it's January 2nd, 2024. What caught your eye this week, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a slow news period this week in between Christmas and New Year's, but a few renewals, few pieces of news that came up. I had done a quick rewatch of the MCU show Hawkeye over the holidays. So this news about Jeremy Renner caught my eye, which is it's now just over 1 year since he had this accident with the snowplow that literally almost took his life.
Right.
And he's now just said that he is ready to come back. He's going to start filming Mayor of Kingstown again. So he has been rehabbing and ready to go. I mean, good for him. This was a serious situation a year ago, but he started making public appearances again.
Yeah, I mean, that's great to hear. What kind of a wild, it seemed like a really weird story
Yeah.
in part, but obviously he was seriously injured. So great to see him alive and well
Yeah.
and getting back to work. I mean,
Yeah,
on that
ready to go.
road.
I have never seen
And
Mayor of Kingstown. Apparently that's on Paramount, but I don't
yeah,
know.
I haven't either. I was reading about Jeremy Renner, and this was mentioned, and I think it's related to Yellowstone and all those other.
It's in the
There's like a
Sheridan verse.
Yellowstoneverse.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's in the Yellowstoneverse, which
yeah.
is like really popular,
Exactly. Oh my
It's
gosh.
like we're out of touch elitists because we don't watch it.
I did not know that. I would have not guessed that they were in the same universe, but okay. All right.
I think that's what I read. Either that or it's just like another Taylor Sheridan's show.
I see.
But I don't know. I just presume that they're in the same
Taylor,
universe.
Taylor
Either
Sheridan
way,
had a show last year, late last year, called Lioness with Tandy Newton. Did you ever hear about this show?
maybe.
It was like a female special ops agent, goes on dangerous missions, and so it's we're out of the ranch territory into sort of the military world, and I don't know, got some interest, but I've never, I can't say other than the first. I'm in this somewhere in the second season of Yellowstone. I've never really seen any Taylor Sheridan shows.
Yeah, I never got around to checking them out. And honestly, it kind of made my list in part because I did feel like am I being like an elitist or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
But then he made some remarks during the writer's strike that made me not want to watch his shows. So I don't know. I don't know. Other upcoming things. Did you ever see? So I only made the one note about this one because of the film. Did you ever see the film Sexy Beast?
I never have.
Starring Ben Kingsley and some other people.
Okay,
I,
okay.
I I'd have to double check what year it came out. I don't know. I haven't seen it like since it came out at some art house theater. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it was in. I think we went in. I remember because I was visiting my friend. I think it was in Royal Oaks, Michigan. I saw Sexy Beast, and it was probably like 1999 or something like that.
Oh boy. Okay.
Um, Something like that. So apparently they're making a prequel show. It pinged my radar because I don't know. I'm intrigued. The movie was good,
Yeah.
but honestly, I don't know that we need a prequel show. So there's also that aspect to it. Like,
Hmm.
no one has ideas, you know.
Also
Um,
also on Paramount. Are we this channel is having a moment lately.
yeah, it is. The Curse
The
ongoing. Curse is
Curse.
quite good. Curse
Exactly.
is on Showtime, and of course this. Well, I think They smushed the brands together. Are they different brands anymore?
Yeah, go listen to episode 27. We try to work out that confusion a little bit.
Paramount Plus with Showtime is
Yeah.
anyhow, yeah, Sexy Beast. So I don't know, like it comes out later this month, and um I'm kind of intrigued. I
Okay.
guess is
I
my
have to say
intrigue.
this was completely off of my radar. I had no idea that this was, I've been looking at some of these, what are the most anticipated shows coming in 2024? This was not one I had heard about. So this all, reading this now, this is all new to
Right,
me.
because it's like you don't it's you're they're making a prequel series of a relatively obscure yet
Yeah.
acclaimed late 90s indie film.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. And so it's is there an audience for this? And am I part of the audience for it?
Yeah. I think
Maybe,
you're
but
asking the right question. Is there literally no other ideas out there that we have to go to?
right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't mean to be too demeaning to the people making the show, but it's just part of me thinks like, what? You want to make a TV show? You're like, well, this movie was good, and like, is that what we do now?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
say like, I'm gonna make a prequel to Out of Sight. That's what I do.
IP is valuable. Even if it's
I guess.
indie, nobody watched it on IP, I guess it's still
And
valuable.
yeah. Well, it's encouraged, I guess, is the thing. Also, like, kind of
Yeah.
structurally. In other news, I mean, I guess this is also IP, and so it's based on books. I know you've been watching Slow Horses. You see today it's now been renewed for season 5.
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. So I'm now in season 2 of Slow Horses. Thought season 1 had a fantastic ending, so jumped right into the second season. And I know that season 3 has just concluded. I did not know that it has been renewed for season 4, but then I see there are going to be a season 5. So I mean, this is great. It should keep it coming, especially since they pump these things out like once a year.
I triple checked. I said, wait a minute. Does the Hollywood Reporter have a typo here? Because I know
Yeah,
season 3 just ended. Apparently, no, it was renewed for season 4 in the past. And
yeah,
maybe they're getting going. I know they were really quick. Season 2 came out really pretty
yes.
fast after season 1.
So three of
Again, I
these
mean,
came out in a 3-year span, which is not the model for these streaming services. I mean, there are only 6 episodes.
yeah.
There's a lot of depth, cinematography, location filming to these things, but they're pumping them out quick.
See, I think here's the thing though. Maybe they want this to be the model,
Yeah.
but they like Apple TV Plus. Maybe they want this to be the model, but then like, oh no, pandemic, and then they go for another year or two, and they're like, oh no, writer's strike. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe
That's true.
maybe everything's just getting held up by these real world circumstances. Speaking of Apple TV, I saw X, which God damn it, I want to call it X now because I don't think it's Twitter anymore. But anyway, I can't help the same quirk as everyone else. Twitter.
I understand.
Um, but the Apple TV account, they just a few hours ago, I saw um the tweet is simply a close-up shot of Adam Scott's face from
Oh,
Severance. It's a tease.
I was gonna ask if you had heard any news about
It's a
Severance.
tease.
Holy crap. Okay.
It's a tease, right? So like something's probably gonna come out, in the next week or so. Maybe we'll get an announcement
Awesome.
on
I
Severance.
mean, just give me a trailer or something. I mean, it has been a long time since season 1 of Severance.
Yeah,
Oh,
looking forward to that one.
that is great to hear. All right, we need to wrap this up in about 5 minutes so I can go check that out. Okay.
Just check out the screenshot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like there's literally no other information. I went so far as to read the alt text to see if
Oh
there was
boy.
anything hidden in it. No, it's just they just put out an image. But
Oh man. Okay, so how about some more IP stuff? So to this news that has come out, George R. R. Martin has said there are 3 animated Game of Thrones shows in the works. To which I simply say no, no, thank you.
agreed. That was gonna be our response. Yeah.
And I am mostly a Game of Thrones apologist, not the last few episodes. I enjoyed House of the Dragon, but no, we do not need Game of Thrones animated spin-off shows when there's already another major IP going on right now. I mean, sure.
Now,
Whatever
okay,
can keep them
so
from finishing the books. I mean, this is just more distraction.
yeah, you should finish the books.
Yeah.
Because I decided when I was like 12 years old that I was never again going to start a series of books until all the books were out, you know. Because I got in the situation where I was waiting
Yeah.
for this Tad Williams book to come out for a couple years. And like by that standard, I don't think I'm ever reading George R. R. Martin's books because it just
You,
feels
you
like
you never will. I
like
asked for Christmas for Fire and Blood, the text for House of the Dragon. Got it. I'm going through it right now, about 100 pages in. And so I don't, it's sort of a confined text, and I'm interested in finishing that. But I'm with you. I will never start the the Game of Thrones series, the 5 book series, unless he's definitively he's gonna finish it or the books come out. I mean, I can't do it.
yeah, I don't know, man. People have but it's like honestly, people have been recommending that book
Yeah.
to me because of the kind of person that I am, and they know my taste for like 18 years. But way before Game of Thrones, the TV show came out, people were like,
Yeah.
you should check out these George R. R. Martin books." I'm like, "Oh, are
Yeah.
all the books out yet?" It's like, ah, no,
No, never will have. But anyway, just back to our point. I am just I will not be watching any animated shows that come out about this. Call that elitist, call that spoiled on what
I
production value
probably
they.
won't either. But in reading about this, so my knee-jerk reaction was no thanks, as you said.
Yeah.
But apparently, at least one of them is supposed to focus on the sea snakes,
Hmm.
and George R. R. Martin was saying it would have been just like really, really expensive to make live action, and that was part of um uh why that went to animated. Um I don't know. The only thing that would intrigue me is if something led to backstory of what happened. Was it Valyria? Yeah,
Yes, where the Targaryens are originally from. Yes.
but like, isn't that also in Game of Thrones where the like zombies that really need some lotion are?
That's north of the wall. That's a different area, I believe.
No, not those zombies, not the White
Oh.
Walkers.
Oh, okay.
The ones that get Jorah or whatever his name is.
Oh, you talking the Dornish people?
No, the like stone guys.
Oh,
I
oh.
can't remember that.
I think that's like an affliction, a
It's an
disease.
affliction. That is the one thing that we're just doing prequels. I want an explanation of that. Like that's the
Oh,
one thing I could go in for is
okay.
that's all. Sorry, rambling around. I don't even
Oh
remember.
gosh. Oh gosh. Okay.
There's
Just
still, I think, supposed to be a Jon Snow show, which
yeah,
is
this is very up in the air, I think. I mean, only because Kit Harington is now involved with the MCU. He's now in this upcoming season of Industry with HBO.
yeah.
So I think that's still in the works, quote unquote, but nothing definitive.
Well, we'll see. But I'm not. See, I'm not super intrigued by anything prequelish about Game of Thrones, in part because I felt the ending was so bad. Even
Mhm.
watching House of the Dragon, even though some of it's intriguing, it's like,
Yeah.
well, I know that all of this leads to how Game of Thrones ended,
Yeah.
and that sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't like that ending. So
I've had this conversation with my wife and so many people there, and I respect the opinion of I will not do this because of how they treated me at the end of Game of Thrones. My only response to that is at least this story has an ending. Game of Thrones had to sort of fly by the seat of their pants and create something because it had no ending. This one does have a George R. R. Martin ending to it at a bare
yeah,
minimum.
I always had the impression that they got an ending from George R. R. Martin, but it was just like written on a cocktail napkin.
Yeah.
That was
Now he knows what not to write if he ever does the books. Yeah.
anyhow. That we spent enough time on
Um,
this.
yeah.
You want to talk about the
Ye-
variety top 100 a little
Yeah,
bit?
so just one of these things that comes out all the time. I just thought this would be we'll do this real quick. But Variety, everybody's familiar with them. I mean, it's a strong um, pop culture criticism and analysis. So they came up on a piece they released the last week of December, the top 100 TV shows of all time. Right, so we won't go through all of these, but I thought it'd be interesting, and you may have seen this, but I want to just quickly run through what they say are I'm going to read 10 through 7 to you, and you tell me what you think would be the top three. We'll just do this real fast, okay? So 10 is Roots,
Mhm.
9 is the Mary Tyler Moore Show,
Fair.
8 is Seinfeld. 7, The Wire. 6, Sex and the City. Okay.
Okay.
Um, 5, Breaking Bad. All right, we're getting into sort of common territory here. Number 4, The Simpsons. Good.
No.
Okay. Now, in whatever order you want, what 3 shows would make up the top of their list? I would say 2 of these are somewhat obvious. The other one I wouldn't have put it on this list or put at the top.
Well, so the problem is I did scroll through it and I do
Okay.
remember the
Okay.
top three. So I can't act like I'm
You can
super
act like you
smart
don't. You
here.
okay,
I
so let's
believe
go through
number
and see
three,
if you agree with it then.
yeah, we'll talk it through. I believe
Okay.
number three is The Sopranos.
Number 3, Sopranos.
Number two is Mad Men.
Number 2, Mad Men.
And number one was I Love Lucy.
Yeah, I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Okay. So thoughts on that?
Can't complain.
Okay, I've never seen. I mean,
Can't complain.
I've seen I Love Lucy in passing, but is it more for uh the trailblazing aspect of it? Is for the what it did for comedic TV going forward? Sort of what about this number one? Do you agree with?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird list. I feel like these things are often weird lists because this is one of those where they've got everything mixed together,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So I Love Lucy's on the same list as Mad Men, The Sopranos, The Simpsons.
yeah,
You go back up the list, there's some other stuff too, where you're just like, oh yeah, Jeopardy? Okay. You know. So how do you judge the one against the other? It's a little bit
yeah.
apples and oranges, And I will recognize that like Twin Peaks might be my favorite show, but it's okay, it's not going to be, it is too low on the list, but I understand it's not going to be like gonna win or whatever. I don't know. I Love Lucy is a really good show. I mean, maybe it is because of, as you say, there's something sort of trailblazing about it. Certainly there
Mhm.
was. I think it was the first multi-camera sitcom, and I have to double check that.
Yeah,
Um, but it's also just really good, and I mean, I
yeah,
guess this is part of the thing that I have confidence that virtually anyone sitting here in 2024 now
yeah.
is could go back to this show from what, how many, 60 years ago or
Hmm.
whatever, and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can't complain about it being number one.
And I think one of the points that they make, which I do agree with it, some show that comes out this year in 2024, will there be a Lucy stomping in a vat of grapes moment that we remember 60 years later, and you can reference it, her stuffing her face full of chocolates as she's working in the chocolate, just those type of moments that have become literally iconic over the years. Maybe there won't be, but it's just it's interesting to say, despite all the past 25 years of prestige TV, that this thing that was really one of a kind, really something that set the stage for so much will come after it is number one. So in the end, I don't have a problem with it, and these lists are made for clicks and debates. So
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's just like,
yeah,
again, apples and oranges, or what's the standard, or because also, as you're noting, we're also bringing in, you know, something about time and how do we assess that,
hmm,
um part of my argument that I just made was the staying power of I
yeah,
Love Lucy. Well, look, I have no idea if Mad Men has that staying power. This is number
right,
two on the list, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I can't complain, but
yeah,
overall, I do think that is one of the issues with this list is when they're mixing together every kind of TV show. The only thing that holds them together is that they were on TV.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
Well, just one of many lists that comes out in this period at the end of the year. So just wanted to throw that. But actually, why don't we move to what we're watching right now, though? Anything on your list? Same as last time. What's your list look like these days?
it's very similar. I'm still on The Curse. A couple
Yeah.
episodes left of that.
Yeah.
It's great. We don't need to belabor it more now. Maybe we'll talk about it more after the thing's
Yeah.
over. I am very curious to see like how does this season end, and is there going to be more? Right. I have the feeling it's going to be at least open for it, but we'll see. Um, Doctor Who Christmas special came out on Christmas. I
Hmm.
watched that. It seems like everyone liked it, and I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer. I didn't think it was all that good. Um, I don't know. I was trying to articulate my issues with it, and I realized like I don't have the juice to like really give a good critical analysis that lands.
Yeah.
It felt to me just a step over the line in terms of cheesiness and kind of like you can't criticize Doctor Who for not being consistent logically
Right.
or whatever, right? But it just seemed like a little over that line. Um, but I don't know. I'm kind of hopeful for the new stuff. I do like the Doctor, and I do like the new companion. So to anyone listening who watches Doctor Who, I'm not griping about them.
Hmm.
Something about the plot just felt kind of, I don't know,
Is there a
Star
date?
Wars. It felt like cheesy Star Wars a little bit. Not even like good Star Wars, but it kind of like slipped into even a
Is
little
there a
cheesy stuff.
date for a next season of, of Doctor Who?
It's sometime this year. I think they're saying spring.
Okay.
So we'll see. What about you? What have you been watching?
Yeah, so mentions Slow Horses. Two episodes left of Monarch, which I've been recapping. I think I mentioned in the piece that posted last weekend that they sort of started to turn a corner there to try to position the show as in years it's in towards how it fits in a bigger universe, much more about filling in gaps in the first half. Now they need to do some things to set up what's to come in the years ahead. So still a solid watch if you're a fan of that universe. And then I will be checking out 1 week from today, January 9th, the all 5 episodes drop at once of the MCU show Echo. I am, of course, hesitant after the abomination that was Secret Invasion, but I'm checking this out because this is the MCU's first TVMA entry. And so this is supposed to be very Daredevil, Punisher-ish. The trailers have looked decent, so I'll be checking that out, just binging it all at once, and we'll see. Maybe I'll throw something up on the site about some thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, so they're releasing it all at once. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, curious to see what they do there.
Yeah. And then I
I don't know
think
that I'll watch it because I don't watch these
yeah.
things anymore.
Like I said, I'm very
But
hesitant after after Secret Invasion and how I mean truly awful that was. And Marvel has beyond just the animated What If series that just came out, they've basically wiped the TV slate clean besides this Echo show to say we got to rethink some things here because of how much of a letdown that was. So again, 5 episodes shouldn't be too much of a burden, and I'll so we'll see how that one goes, and then I'm really focused on. I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I don't know that I'm panicking or dreading 2024, but I'm gonna sort of try to dampen some of that dread by rewatching West Wing and looking at a more idyllic version of politics, thinking about what's
mm,
ahead.
yeah, we talked about an episode of West Wing, and we probably
Yeah,
got into that a little bit. I mean, I guess it is sort of TV if we think about the news and political coverage.
yeah,
And yeah, I'm wondering this myself. Like my question to myself is, am I going to be able to avoid it like I want to?
yeah,
Like I'm sitting here telling myself, I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to pay as little attention as I'm not going to watch this stuff,
exactly,
but I
exactly.
don't know. I feel like I might get sucked in.
You unless you unplug from TV, social media, a workplace, anything, you're not going to be able to avoid it in 2024. So you need something to balance the scales a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it already started. You caught this stuff on New Year's Eve with Green Day. Did you see all this stuff that
Oh
came
yeah,
out?
I almost put this in the notes that I thought, well, we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah,
But yeah, people are getting upset. I do think it's pretty funny that what they're getting upset about
yeah,
is this change to the lyrics of American Idiot.
yeah,
And it's like some people were saying, It used to be political. If nothing else, this is when they got political.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
This is a
Like,
direct response to George W. Bush. I went to a Green Day concert in 2016. They were changing the lyrics 8 years ago. I promise you, this is not a new this is not a new thing.
right, yeah, yeah. But I think it was on, well, it was on like Rock New Year's Eve or whatever. So a lot more
Yeah,
people saw.
yeah.
I also on New Year's Eve, I tried to watch some of that stuff, and it was just like there was no show there. Like I think at one point I turned on the ABC broadcast, whatever they call it, and I think commercials were on for like more than 5 minutes, and I turned it off. Like I didn't see any of the actual show. It was just like it was like 11:30,
Yeah, exactly.
and
Exactly.
and I turned it down. I'm like, man, I watched a ball drop or whatever. And it was just solid state commercials
Right.
until I ran out of patience. So I don't
Apparently
know.
the network to watch was CNN because they had a Anderson Cooper, Andy Cohen, Neil Patrick Harris drunk version of Never Have I Ever that they did as it led up to midnight, and they got quite wild. So I need to go back and watch the replay of that.
Right on. Yeah, yeah. That is the one I should have been going after. But they had the ABC one on Hulu streaming or
Yeah,
something. I don't
yeah.
know. I turned it off. All right.
Anyway,
Enough of all of that. We have some other stuff we can do on next week, maybe, in our notes here. But let's get to Fargo, eh?
absolutely. Let's get to Fargo.
All right. So it's again Fargo season 5, episode 8. We're up to now, titled Blanket. So we'll take a little break here as per usual, like 10 seconds, and on the other side of that, spoiler territory. Okay, so this is your spoiler warning for everything in Fargo through season 5, episode 8. And yeah, see you in about 10 seconds.
All right, welcome back. It is time to talk about Fargo season 5, episode 8, Blanket, written by Noah Hawley and Thomas Mazuka, directed by Sylvain White. After the events of episode 7, where Roy locates Dorothy in the hospital, Dorothy's forced back to the Tillman Ranch by Roy and by his men. But Officer Witt sees her at the hospital before she checks out. He wants to know if she's in need of help. She tells him that she is fine, but he can tell that something is quite amiss here. So he goes off to warn Danish, who he runs into at a gas station, and also calls Officer Olmsted to try to get some folks on his side, try to see what they should do to help Dorothy. Witt tells Danish, Indira tells Lorraine about what's happening, but Roy and Gator have threatened Witt not to come on their property, not to interfere with what's going on, or they will kill him on sight. Meanwhile, Danish and Lorraine have come up with a plan to sabotage Roy Tillman's sheriff election campaign. And after this happens and Roy punches a woman, Danish goes to visit Roy. Roy kills him and buries him on his ranch. Meanwhile, while Dorothy is imprisoned by Roy, she stands up to him, which causes a series of physical and mental abuses to come her way. She tries to help get Gator to help her escape, saying that she knows where Linda is, who is Gator's mother, and can help take him to her. But there's some confusion about what actually has happened to Linda. So he refuses, and Dorothy is left stuck in the ranch, still in prison at the end of episode 8. So you sent me a message saying that you really enjoyed this episode, that it was haunting and quite impactful. I can't help but agree. This is a lot to get into in this one, but this was a powerful episode. One of these that came with this sort of warning to the beginning about some of the material that would happen on here. And
Yeah.
man, there was no shortage of that. Lots to dig into. Where would you like to start?
Um, you're so smart. Why are you so dead?
Why are you so dead? I'm really upset that this is the last that we see of Dave Foley.
Yeah,
I
me too.
mean, especially after his his little, just how he played that first scene when he's at the courthouse and he's there
Hmm.
with the guys, just so he seems maybe more so than any other character like he fits in that world and fits in that part of part of the country. He just did an amazing job, and like I said, just have to give him credit. This last we see of him.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, and then that opening scene, I love how they do it where you kind of have to, they don't tell you what's going on, you kind of have to figure out what's going
Yeah.
on. But I thought that was really entertaining when Ding's over the next number and he's like, still me. Um yeah. So you want to change all three of these guys' names to Roy Tillman. I don't even know if they say Roy Tillman in that scene
Yeah, so
actually.
that's exactly I think what you're
Um
saying, which is that opening scene doesn't it says they're all changing their names to the same name, but you
yeah,
don't know what that context is until they get to the debate.
yeah,
That's what they did.
until you get the debate later. I don't know whether this has any plausibility as a real world plan. I didn't do any research along the lines of trying to poke holes in it,
Yeah, yeah.
so I don't know. But I find it very entertaining. I think in the real world, maybe not. I don't know. But since we're talking about this, right, that is the plan. He ultimately has these three guys show up as at the debate or town hall,
Hmm.
dressed like Roy, wearing hats like Roy, and then they start mimicking him. Um, and I think getting him to lose his temper as he does was probably part of the plan.
Had to have been. Yeah, to get him to, I don't know that they thought he would punch the host
Punch
of the
the
debate.
moderator. But yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, but this to do something to overreact on camera and in front of people. Um, the things I don't know if Roy considers this that he's taken any step back in this situation, right? He's handled his revenge, he's gotten his retribution, or handed out the justice there. Does he even think that this is going to cause him any problems? The people love him, the people know him. I don't know. Does he think he can bounce back from this? I bet someone with his type of ego and narcissism does think that he can.
Maybe so. Maybe
Yeah,
so. I think he's also deeply, deeply angry about it, and
very
that
much so.
is on display already in the scene in the car where Karen is saying whatever she's saying. He doesn't want to hear anything, right? And then also arguably, as he goes to beat on Dot,
Yeah.
basically, that anger is boiling out. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about with all of this is clearly Danish makes a mistake here.
Yes.
Why do you think he didn't call Lorraine? Because he thought about calling Lorraine at the gas station. He has his phone out. He's thinking
Yeah.
about calling Lorraine, and he says, "Not call Lorraine."
I've been thinking about this. I don't know that I necessarily have a good answer for why he would not involve her. I mean, clearly she had to have been involved in the plot to do this or to, sabotage the debate. Why he would choose to sort of go off on his own to try and make this deal without Lorraine's foreknowledge really confusing because he doesn't seem to be the person we talked about this before as a yes man, as a fixer. He is someone who just follows orders, just goes in line with whatever Lorraine says. So it seemed out of character to me that he would do this without her knowing it. So I don't want to have an answer on why he would choose to not give her that call and give her heads up of here's what's happened, here's where she is.
Yeah, I mean, I can only think of I've got kind of two possibilities. Maybe
Hmm.
they could run together to some degree, but they kind of seem like they're pulling in opposite directions. Okay.
Yeah.
But maybe it's somehow both still. One is I don't like maybe Danish is worried that Lorraine isn't going to go for his idea.
Yeah.
Maybe he's worried that she's going to put more weight on carrying through the plan of sabotaging Roy than on her daughter-in-law's life. Maybe he's worried that she's just not going to be on board enough
Yeah.
or have enough urgency because Wit expresses that there's urgency to the situation or something like
Yeah.
that. That's sort of one possibility. The other that I found myself landing on more was that in this moment, very
Hmm.
foolishly, Danish decides he's going to take care of it himself, that he doesn't need to bother Lorraine about this. He's got an idea about how to take care of it himself, and he's going to do that
Hmm.
and save the day, as it were,
Yeah.
by going to save Dot.
I wonder, and it's sort of a combination of your 2 points, if Danish thinks that Lorraine doesn't actually really care about Dorothy. She doesn't really care about what happens to her. She does care about beating Roy. She cares about winning against him. She cares about making something happen to make her win and him lose. So would she have gone along with that plan? And Danish actually has as a little bit of sentimentality, a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of I need to take care of this person. So he just goes off and says, "Well, Rain wouldn't go for this anyways. I'm just going to go take care of it." Who knows? But it could be that he doesn't think Lorraine has any sort of sense of we need to protect or take care of Dorothy.
Yeah, I think we're hitting on it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But the only clarification I'd want to make is you have to realize in real life, if you are Danish, you don't necessarily land on something as firm as I don't think Lorraine's gonna go for this. The question is, do I call? Do I ask permission? Do I ask for guidance
Yeah.
as opposed to making the decision to go and do what I wanted to do? You know,
Hmm.
it's kind of like people will say, often very toxically, in my opinion, people will say things like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than
Hmm.
permission.
Yeah.
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 Not a good mantra to live by, in the opinion of Cameron Crane, but I think it's kind of in that space. But then unfortunately, he miscalculates.
Hmm.
And I think really the big miscalculation is in his assessment of Roy.
Exactly.
Because even as he's standing in the room, even as Roy gets the gun out and puts it on his desk, it's like Danish can't imagine a world where this guy's going to shoot him.
Yeah, that Roy is wounded, and so will back into a corner instead of being wounded, and so he will attack to make sure he doesn't get wounded any further. I mean, yeah, that's a major miscalculation on his part.
Yeah, and I think the games are interesting because, look, in my opinion at least, someone like Lorraine and Danish, it's not like they're good people. They're like exploiting people, debt collectors, and all of this. And we've talked about this theme of
Hmm.
kind of not respecting the law or the authorities. Just put a face on it. Think about the FBI.
Yeah.
Roy's very dismissive, so's Lorraine, basically, right?
Yes.
But that they're coming from different angles, where Lorraine's whole thing and Danish's whole thing would all be within some kind of rules of the game of civil society or something, if
Hmm.
I can put it that way, in a certain way. In other words, the Lorraine solution would never be brute violence, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so thus Danish can't quite fathom that Roy, who's also a figure
Hmm.
of some prominence, elected official, county sheriff, all of
Yeah.
that, would respond simply by shooting him dead. Like
I,
he can't fathom that, and he's wrong.
I think that's a great point because Danish, even if it's in an underhanded way, is thinking about things from a law or legal perspective or what someone should or could not do in a situation. I was just rewatching episode 2 not long ago, and that speech that Roy gives about what is legal and illegal versus what is right and wrong. And now it's his job to protect what is right and wrong. And what is right is what he determines in his mind is right. And so this is a self-preservation thing. So he's ready to do whatever it takes. Yeah, like I said, just major misjudgment from Danish.
Yeah. So I think continuing on this path a bit, we'll have to circle back around to some other things. But so the final scene, Danish, how they dispose of Danish's body,
Yeah.
where they dispose of Danish's body. I have a theory about this.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't pay a lot of attention to where other than it looked like it was underneath some kind of well or something, but I
I
wondered
think
if
that
it
was his hot tub.
That was his hot tub. Oh, okay, okay. I didn't notice that was the location of where it was
I
based
think
on.
so.
Okay. So is the, oh, I'd hate to think that his victims are somehow like, powering or heating his naked hot tub. Maybe they are, but also was wondering, he references putting Dorothy in the episode next to Linda. Is this where we can find where Linda actually is, as opposed to where Dorothy thinks that she is?
Yeah. I think that's hinted at. And the
Yeah.
thing I want to draw in here, we were talking about this at length last week with the extended dream sequence. And that part of that dream was Dorothy going to that oil rig.
Hmm.
And what was she digging up? What was she looking for? She finds
Yeah.
the postcard and so on. I'm thinking now that Dorothy subconsciously, or maybe consciously before her accident, I don't know, kind of knew that Roy had killed Linda and
Mm.
put her there because there's some resemblance between his kind of oil rig windmill that he's got going and that location we saw in the dream.
And where she found that postcard, where she had buried that postcard. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I wondered if, if that had happened long ago, and Linda was never where we think that she was during that episode, episode 7, or she was there. Roy found her, and has, exacted his revenge. And whether Gator knows that or not, we really don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, we really don't know, frankly, if Roy is telling the truth about Linda being dead on his property. I guess we have to take him at his word on that. Um, all we can say for certain is that what Dorothy experienced in episode 7 was a dream sequence.
Yeah, we know it was a dream. I just wonder how much information Fargo will find a way to give us to answer
Yeah.
some of these questions. And so I wanted to get that out there that if they don't give us anything else, you could at least tie these things together and say, oh, well, maybe it was something in a dream representation of where he actually
Yeah,
did put Linda, and that at some level Dorothy knows that.
exactly.
It struck me, you mentioned Gator, and actually in the episode, this happens before Roy has said this. But even in her exchange with Gator, she's telling Gator that she can take him to his mom and things like this. And he calls her a liar.
Hmm.
I was already kind of getting the feeling there that maybe Linda was dead and maybe Gator knew that Linda was dead. Was that just me or did you show that at all?
So the only reason why I had a little bit of pause in that is because it seemed like Gator had some sort of sense of emotion or hopefulness, and maybe even considered what Dorothy was offering for a moment. And if he knows that she's dead and that that's not a possibility, or maybe, I could have completely misread that. But it's like almost like he considered it for a second before he says, no. He's still trying to prove himself, as we learned from this conversation about why he's not named Roy. He's still trying to prove himself worthy of being a Roy. And so he says no to Dorothy's offer, but did he consider it for a second? That's kind of where I got some pause on that.
Yeah. Maybe maybe he doesn't know in the sense of having seen it,
Yeah,
but maybe he assumes, or maybe even Roy told him at one point that
yeah.
he killed Linda.
That very well
So
could be the
um
case. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Carrying forward with Gator, he threatens Wit, who's at the gate, does fire a shot, a warning shot.
Yeah.
Um, and then we were talking about this a little bit before we recorded. You see a figure pop up in the
Mhm.
back of his car, which I'm pretty sure is Munch, but we don't return to that for the rest of the episode. It's like 20 more minutes of episode. It's like right in the middle, and that's all
Exactly.
you get.
And you helped me understand that that's probably, I was sort of confused about who that would have been. But based on what we saw it was episode 7 where we see him at the house where he kills the guy who was asking for the rent, I believe.
I believe
And
so,
he
yeah.
understands that Gator was there. He sees Gator there. And so it makes sense that he's tracking Gator and would be some place where he can get that revenge back at Gator. But you're right. We see him pop up, assuming that's him, and then don't see what happens as Gator drives off. I mean, is he just sitting there where you can see him in the back of the car for, for several miles, or, we have no idea what's happening there. But Gator may be the next person to go here if we're sort of fast forwarding to episode 9.
I would assume so, but there are a couple of things about this that are weird, besides the fact that they kind of throw this scene in halfway
Yeah.
through and don't return to it. And we're watching this attentively.
Yeah.
Some people watch television, they aren't always looking at the screen, and you might have just missed this.
Yeah.
Um that it's Munch makes sense. Where
Yeah.
we left off with him, we were saying last week, he's going after Gator, obviously, right? How do you get in the back of a cop car? That's kind of a question. And
Yeah.
also, what exactly is his plan? Because attacking someone from the back seat of a cop car isn't a good plan, right? I realize, like, I almost expected him to, pop up and attack right away,
Yeah.
but presumably you can't, there's probably like bulletproof glass
There
between
was,
the
yeah, I
front seat
went
and the
back
back seat and all of that.
I went back and looked. There was a barrier between the back seat and where Gator is in the front. So, I guess it works both ways. They can't get to each other. Munch is just counting on the fact that he can, whenever Gator stops or pulls over, whatever, that he can overpower him when he notices that he's there. That's the best thing I can think
Yeah.
of.
But here's the best plan. Here's the best Munch plan. I can see that. So he's been hiding, right? And
Mhm.
now he's just gonna sit up and he's just gonna sit there until Gator notices him in the rearview mirror and freaks out,
Exactly.
right? And then he's go, like he'll pull over or something, and then
Yeah.
But the
So,
fact that I spent the rest of the episode kind of waiting for that payoff, and we didn't get it.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of wanted some resolution to that. It certainly didn't come. It makes you think of, I think this is the end of episode 2, where Gator is in the convenience store. The officer is filling up with gas. Munch comes up, kills him, leaves him with a note on that says, "You owe me." Gator comes out. When he finally sees what has happened, I mean, he freaks out. There's no calmness. There's no, sense of, I'll have to handle this situation. I mean, he freaks out. And so, yeah, that's one thing we have got to be sure we see in episode 9. They better show us what happens. It's not just, you know, Munch has Gator tied up somewhere. We need to see how this takes place.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Another thing, again, we have some other stuff to circle back to, but there's 2 more episodes of the season.
Yeah.
Doesn't it kind of feel like there should only be one? Or
Yeah.
instead of like, how are there 2?
I was going to mention this to you. This felt to me like often we talk about these in these powerful series, the penultimate episode of a series is the best one. And it's
Yeah.
the almost at the climax to sort of tip it over the top in the finale. That's what it felt like to me. So to have 2 left, and you and I have screeners. The only description in the upcoming episode is "the tide turns." That's what it says, right? So it's like, okay, give it to me. I want to see what happens here. But yeah, I felt the same way. What are they going to do for 2 episodes?
Yeah. We'll see, I guess, right? We do have
Yeah.
a couple other threads to pick up on. Indira is a big one.
Yep.
She gets the call from Wit. She stops home to change her clothes, and good old Lars stepping out on her in her own bed.
in in the bed she paid for, and the house that she takes care of, and yeah, and I hate to think, I mean, Lars, like, what a despicable guy. Is he actually going to leave? He's still going to be there when she gets back, right? He's not
He's
going
still
anywhere.
going to be there. He's still going to be there. He's be
Yeah.
like, I don't,
He's
but
gonna be on
she
the simulator when she gets home.
uh, probably, man. Seriously, I don't think he's just going to leave.
Yeah.
She gives him what for, and I think in part she's listing his faults for the benefit of the woman who she found in the
Yep.
closet. Tells him to get out. Yes, I'm behind her. Go India. Go, good plan. Unfortunately, it would seem as she leaves, her car's being repossessed.
Yeah. And that is her
Uh,
car, not Lars's car. Lars drives the Jeep, I believe, but it's the other car that's repossessed. So yeah, what is I mean, what a day for Indira. But
Yeah.
this certainly is the character you're pulling for this series.
Yeah. She has her police vehicle, but I don't know if they let her
Yes.
drive. They don't let them drive it all the time, I guess.
Right.
She goes over to Lorraine's. Apparently she takes a job. Does this surprise
Yeah,
you?
yeah. It seems that way.
It's pretty quick, you know.
Yeah.
Lorraine says, "Oh, you're here to take the job," and Indira seems to say, "Yes, but I know where Dot is." Yeah.
Yeah, we
Um,
have to handle this first. And she is the one, yeah, like you said, to break the news to Lorraine.
yeah. So that's pressing. We don't really return to them.
Nope.
Um, so that's out there in terms of where we go. Instead, we go back to Roy, and I did want to talk about one other thing here. After he returns from the debate or the town hall, you have this
Hmm.
really long shot
Yeah.
where he's walking towards the shed.
Yeah.
Um, and a cover version of Britney
Hmm.
Spears' Toxic,
Yeah.
which I believe the artist here is Hope D. I went and poked around and it sounds like it. I didn't find written confirmation.
Yeah.
What did you think of this? I guess both the song and the scene, the shot.
Yeah. So really adequate song, certainly when you talk about the nature of who Roy is and sort of this masculine toxicity that he displays. I, it struck me while this was happening. I was like, this is a really long, nonstop walking scene. I mean, there was one of these in recently in House of the Dragon where Viserys the king walks through this long courtway up to the Iron Throne. It made me think of just sort of these. What I thought about in this scene was what's going through his mind as he's clearly walking towards this room or wherever that Dorothy is held. Um, how did someone get the better of me? How did someone find a way to bring me down a notch? And how can I blame Dorothy for it and therefore take it out on her?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Really, it's her fault
yeah,
because somehow it's her fault that
gotta be, has to be, yeah,
this thing happened. And from a certain point of view, it's not entirely wrong. I mean, because Danish did it because of the whole backstory with Dorothy and so on and so forth. But
yeah.
I'm by no means excusing Roy's behavior. Um, I like the use of the song, and I like the cover version of the song.
Yeah.
And once again, as I think I said last week, Fargo is not subtle.
This is about as far away from subtle as you can get.
Yeah, the extended shot of Roy Tillman as the lyrics go, "Don't you know that I'm toxic?" Yeah, not subtle. Not subtle. I enjoy it. It's funny. I was looking. Oh man, I forgot. I was going to make a note of the band. I was looking for cover versions of Toxic. And are you aware that
Mhm.
there's this like other cover version from quite a long time ago that's by one of these kind of like preppy metal bands, like
Oh
pop
no.
metal bands,
Oh boy. Okay.
like it like Fallout or Avenged Sevenfold or something, but that's not who did it. It was someone else. It was someone I'd never heard of. That was kind of interesting.
There
Um,
are some moments in shows where I mean you think could you have possibly put another song or score on top of this? And I just in the moment thought this is pretty perfect as he's making this long walk. It's on the nose, but it's pretty perfect.
yeah, I agree. It was well done, and the cover is good. I don't if it would have worked with the Britney Spears song itself. I
Yeah,
could see
right.
it. Could see it almost. It's too fast. You need a
Too
slower
bad.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good cover, I think. So I don't know. It doesn't. There's not a lot of hope. I mean, in terms of how the episode ends, certainly there is in terms of Lorraine being out there and Dira being out there. They
Yeah.
know where Dorothy is, whatever's going on with Munch.
Yeah.
I would expect the way it plays out isn't exactly straightforward.
Here's one thing that I feel like I need your opinion on, which is it, so we made the point that Danish did not call Lorraine. So Lorraine does not know that Danish went there, confronted him, and is dead. We know that Dorothy saw someone going into the ground as she's looking out the window. She sees what happens there. Does she realize that it is Danish? Because I think Lorraine, goes nuclear if she realizes that Roy has done this to Danish. Now she could probably make some strong assumptions that that's the case, but has Dorothy witnessed Danish going into the ground and can sort of corroborate that and I don't know, activate Lorraine in a way if she's able to escape.
Yeah, possibly.
I just
You
didn't get a
know,
sense of does she know who was going in the ground?
I mean, it's hard to tell from the scene.
Yeah.
What are we going to get into? Going back and trying to magnify the footage and guessing what she could have seen.
Yeah.
But I can say this, Danish, he has a distinctive look to him.
He does. He does.
So I don't know, see the eye patch or the other thing I'll tie in here, part of what I was trying to get at earlier is a question I'm still asking myself that I'm not entirely sure we're going to get an answer to. That question is, what was Dorothy's plan when she left Scotty with Indira?
Yes.
We know what happened, but what did she intend to be doing?
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit unsure.
Well, it seems
Go
well,
ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I was thinking, well, clearly her plan was to go find Linda, bring her back, they prosecute or whatever but then obviously that never happened.
No, because it was a dream, and so my current hypothesis is, I don't know if it quite works, but if the oil rig in the dream was a dream representation of where Roy actually is putting Danish's body, maybe she had that inkling or knew that he disposed of bodies there, and that's what she was going after in some way. But I don't know how she could have gotten that evidence or how she would have thought she could have gotten that evidence. See, in other words,
Okay.
what I'm thinking is maybe Dorothy's thought was, look, the fact that this guy abused me, the fact that he had me kidnapped and all of that, that's not going to be enough. I have
Yeah.
to get him for murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean,
I don't know how she would have got that evidence.
I don't either. And she certainly can get it now that she's there. She has the scars literally to prove that. But how she can't, or what would have been her plan pre-capture? Because certainly that wasn't in the cars for her to get into some sort of car accident and get captured and Roy find her. I think that's one thing we may never understand. What was the goal of leaving Scotty, going out to do something? Maybe she literally was going to leave that diner, go try to find this place or this person or this idea of how to take down Roy, but was just, what happened to her. We simply won't know, I don't think.
Yeah, the best I've got is some speculations there, but it is a
Yeah.
question I find myself continuing to think about. There are 2 episodes left. Maybe there'll be more that can be sort of lumped in there. But I also think you're right. Thinking about those 2 hours we've got left, basically, in terms of what you were saying, if Lorraine or when Lorraine finds out that Roy has killed Danish,
Yeah.
that the gloves are going to come off
Yep.
in a meaningful way. So if we're thinking, well, how is it 2 episodes? Maybe somehow, and I haven't watched anymore. I haven't watched by an episode 8 at this
Yep.
point, to be clear. Maybe somehow in episode 9, it's like Dot gets away or is rescued, and then maybe episode 10 is coming back to give Roy Tillman what he has coming.
Yeah.
Like that.
I could see episode 9 being an escape. Things are revealed. Things are set in motion for a big time confrontation between Roy, his people, and Lorraine and Dorothy. Them being on the same side, I think it strikes me as a little odd. And then somehow we've got to factor in how much lands in that circle, right? What his role ends up being with this, which has got to be something.
Yeah. And then maybe the FBI will show up.
Yep.
And there's been a lack of connections to other seasons. Is like, does Lorraine have contacts with the what's the mafia? What it's a weird the mafia, the
Um,
Oklahoma mafia or whatever.
I remember the Kansas City Mafia,
Oklahoma?
I think, from
Kansas
last.
City Mafia.
Yeah, yeah,
See, I'm a coastal elitist confusing all of my flyover states. Without apology. I'm not going to
yeah,
apologize.
yeah.
So maybe she has some contacts with the Kansas City Mafia, so or something, and we will finally get some connection to other seasons. I don't know.
Yeah, a connection would be nice. How all these threads tie together from a character basis is going to be interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, in some ways, you think about it, it's. I'm glad there's 2 hours left. There's a lot
Oh
left to
yeah,
do.
yeah. I'm not complaining. It's just like
Yeah,
it already feels so close to
right,
climax, as it were.
right.
Um, so we'll see what happens next
Yes,
couple of
sir.
weeks. Anything else we want to hit on here before we wrap up?
I'm good. I'm just really looking forward. I may have to go power through 9 here pretty soon.
Yeah, same. Probably later tonight.
Yeah,
I do like to have a little bit of time where I'm not ahead of the world if I can
yeah,
arrange it, and like maybe actually engage with people on social media, because I somewhat feel once I'm ahead on these shows that I
yeah.
watch, I can't talk anymore. So be very careful.
We
You know.
can say it's not a spoiler to say these are all out there. Episode 9 is titled "The Useless Hand." There's several things I can think of. I'll save theories for, I guess, my own brain, since we'll be talking about this one next week. But there's a lot
And
of things I can think of there.
do we have a line on why this one is called Blanket?
I think only because of the. I mean, my only reference was the blanket she's covering herself when she's it's not escaped when she's cut off the chains. She's hiding that weapon. That's what she's using to sort of cover her method of escape. But that's the only blanket reference I could come up with.
Yeah, that's the blanket in the episode. I mean, there's another blanket.
Which
Lars
one?
is under a blanket.
Oh, yeah, that's
Um,
true. That's true.
I guess we could
Oh
spin
my God.
some metaphorical thought about hiding things under a blanket, and then you ultimately get what Roy's been hiding.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess um, it works. But all right, we'll leave it there. Thanks as always for joining us. We'll be back next week for season 5, episode 9, The Useless Hand. Um, Follow the site on social media, TV Obsessive. Read stuff on the site. You can read Felicia Nicken's recap of this episode now, because it will be published by the time you can listen to this. And yeah, she's been on the show week to week for us all season. So you can check that out. Some other stuff on the site about Fargo if you're inclined to read things, and about other shows. Read our work. We write things. It's good. All right, so we'll leave it there. See you next week.
All right. Take care. See you then.